Wemden zamden kesum buwem komar wadas sana doi we sinyonya patkuya nyamo hutra yin. We need to be very, very careful, especially when we lose our identity. There won't be no more services for us. We'll just like be the non-Indian out there.
My name is Lena, and your host on Rezzilient. My main goal of this podcast is to highlight some of my favorite people in Indian country. I find them on social media, suggested for you, other podcasts, word of mouth, news articles, etc. And today I have joining me is the coffee extraordinaire, Tudor Montague from the Fort Yuma Quechan Nation.
Hey, Lena, how you
Welcome.
doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you coming on the show today. So it's been a long time since I first found you on Instagram or first heard about you. So I'm very happy to spend this time here with you today.
Yeah, likewise. I really appreciate the invite. And like you said, we've been communicating back and forth, over the internet. So it's nice to finally hear the voice as well and have a discussion with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So I totally love your coffee. I mean, I just put a not so big order, but a pretty big order not too long ago. I got me 3 bags. I'm drinking the Spirit blend right now, and by far that is the best one that I've tasted that I like. I mean, I have all the other bags as well, but I'm just I love that. I love that blend of coffee. I love the chocolatey flavor to it. It's so amazing. It's a huge part of my day.
Right on. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been getting some pretty good feedback about that one in particular. So yeah, nice. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. So, what I wanted to talk to you about is your journey. I want to get to
hmm
know and find out what it is that got you into, the roasting business, the coffee business. So, tell us a little bit about like what it was like growing up for you.
Right on. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm from here, Fort Yuma, Quechan. We're a border tribe in the sense that our reservation straddles Arizona and California. So pretty much grew up here to our high school in the Red San Pasqual. Moved on after that, went to college. I started over in San Diego. I went for a couple of quarters out there, and then I had a good buddy who's actually one of my best friends. He was over at Haskell. Transferred up that way. It was all Indian school. Really cool experience overall.
Around what year was that? So you graduated high school at what year?
Yeah, I graduated high school in '93, and then so made it over to Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas. I think it was '95, '96.
So basically, we just told everybody your age right now.
Yeah, just dated myself pretty bad, but
Yeah.
no worries, no worries. The background I had being outdoors a lot, appreciation for nature. Made it over to Kansas, going to college. Over in Lawrence, I took, I think I went for it was a business administration degree. I was, always had an interest in business, but the thing was in Lawrence was really the first time that I was exposed to, gosh, like farmers markets, really fresh food. The first craft beer that I had was up in Lawrence Brewery up there. So it was really in that time that I was exposed to fresh craft products, whether that be food, coffee, beer. And so that
Yeah,
was
it's just a
really,
different type of taste, a different type of atmosphere that you get
yeah,
when you enter into any little mom and pop brewery or coffee shop or anything like that. It's totally different, like way different
a-
than a corporate vibe.
absolutely. It's mind blowing, just change your whole perspective on things. So
You get
yeah,
treated
that's
way
kind of
different.
really,
You get treated way different.
hmm absolutely. Yeah. It's nothing, sadly, there wasn't that opportunity here like Yuma, pretty small town. So we didn't really have that at that time. And like I said, yeah, just first time being exposed to it just, blew my mind and kind of touched, got some things going and graduated from KU Haskell and then went to KU and then started my career. I got a degree in environmental policy and was lucky enough to get a job with the tribe in Phoenix Valley. So, just carried on, but got that exposure and developed an appreciation for fresh food, brew, everything. So I always had that
Okay.
with me. Yeah. And, that was kind of the first exposure to that, and really opened my eyes to that field, I guess.
And where was it that you got a job at?
I got hired on with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community in the environmental field. So yeah, I came out to Phoenix after I graduated from KU, and then Phoenix, again, a larger city. So I was already tuned in by that point and searched out, good food, good beer. So that's kind of where I, first got the exposure, and then developed an appreciation for craft, artisanal products.
And that was about how many years ago from
From about 2002 to shoot 2016. So yeah, I spent a good chunk of time there.
so
That
you were
time.
just moving along and then like obviously trying out all of these different little mom and pops out here.
So I was working for the tribe, and like I said, I did at Haskell. I got a business AA in business, so I've always had that idea in the back of my mind. And at this time, when I got into the valley, I actually picked up home brewing. Again, going back to the craft beer and stuff. I remember I came home down here back to the res for a little while, and I was at a shop, and they had a little home brewing beer kit, and I looked at it and said, hey, that looks pretty interesting. And let me pick that up and try it out. And man, that was it. It was an obsession after that. So so I started brewing beer and just getting into that pretty heavily. Really just, I guess what fascinates me is taking raw ingredients, whatever they are, and being able to work with them and craft something out of them. So
Uh-huh.
with beer, it's the grains, the brewing grains, hops, and then yeast, and that whole blend of art and science just really fascinated me. So met a couple of people up in Kansas that were doing it there in college and talking about it. So that's where I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Oh, and then in between school, I was firefighting, so I'd do wildland firefighting with the BLM, and there was a buddy there, one of the firefighters that brewed his own beer.
Oh,
So
cool.
he'd bring it in, yeah, and I remember we'd share it around, and really, I was like, wow, again, it was just fresh, well done, fresh, good stuff. So I saw, yeah, actually a buddy that was doing it.
And I bet
Yeah,
that was like super refreshing when you were like after you were fighting a fire and then to go back and drink some fresh
yeah,
brewed beer that they had just made like probably like a couple nights or a week before or something like that, right?
absolutely, yeah, yep. So that further piqued my interest, and then, like I said, I saw that little kit, picked that up, and then just dove into that full steam ahead. So I was doing that while I was working, and then just kind of the wheels had been turning, and I was like, well, I really like this, and just the crafting, creating, and
Were
so
you making it
initially
for
was,
your friends and family?
yeah, I'd share it all over, people at work, and just the variety that you can do, so I had some buddies at Salt River, and they were kind of throwing around some ideas, saying, why don't you try out a mesquite beer? So I made a pale ale with mesquite beans in it, did a reduction of the beans, and got a syrup. So it turned
Oh,
out pretty good. And, just,
you're
again, just
taking it
stuff.
back to the roots with that
Yeah.
mesquite.
Yeah. So a lot of the Maricopa folks over there really dug it. So, yeah, that was one of my favorite recipes. But,
Heck yeah, we grew up with all kinds of trees, all kinds of mesquite trees all over the
yeah.
place. So I'm kind of like curious now, like as to what that would actually really taste like. Hmm.
Yeah, it was nice. It has, I don't know if you've ever chewed on the mesquite beans. It has a little sweetness to it with a kind of a slight bitterness too. So it's a nice, if done right, it can be a nice addition. And I'm actually trying to think of ways to incorporate that into the coffee as well. So I have a smaller roaster that I'm going to play around with some flavors and do some crazy stuff with. So yeah, but again, it goes back to the
That
ability of creating something, and putting things together that, may or may not come out exceptional, So I was getting the brewing down pretty good, and I was starting to develop this idea, like, I'd really like to do this for a living. And so I had about, almost 10 years of just kind of playing around with it at home, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take this serious. So while I was working, got myself into a brewing school, so a professional brewing school out of Vermont, called the American Brewers Guild. So that was a 6-month program. It was called Brewery and Training, or Brewery and Planning, Intensive Brewing and Engineering Science, or something like that. But
and around what time was that?
Shoot, that was, let me see, 2013. I think I went through that program.
So did you quit your job at Salt River and then you went to that program?
No, I did it at the same time. It was so they had it was an online component, and then we had to finish the program with some time actually in Vermont. So I, just kind of worked it out to where I could do it while I was working, and when I needed to go up there, I took the time off, and I made that happen. So really, I was gearing up to do that, and then it's funny because during the course there was a section in there, and this is where the coffee ties in. There was a section where they were talking about preparing the grains for the beers. So some of the darker beers, like the stouts and the porters that you see, the barley is actually roasted in a coffee roaster, a very similar equipment. So they were talking about it. They're like, well, the darker beers, you got to roast the grains, and they took us through that whole process of doing that. And that's where I was like, kind of jumped back. I was like, beer, fresh beer, good food, and then coffee. Coffee was always a part of my life as well. From staying up late studying, doing your thing, and drinking coffee, and then working professionally, your conferences or whatever, you always have. At least
coffee's
I did.
Always all around.
Yeah, that's the fuel to keep you going. And every now and then I'd get a really delicious cup of coffee, and it'd really stand out. So that was something else. I was like, always like, man, this is really good. And going back to the school, they were talking about how roasting the grains, and I was like, man, this is pretty neat. So kind of like the same thing. I was like, man, you can do this pretty simply, So I kind of, while I was in the brewing school, started looking at coffee as well. And I was like, and started doing some research and just dove down the rabbit hole for coffee as well. So anyway, kind of.
So you were doing two things at one time,
yeah,
like learning, or learning two different crafts at the same time, and that's pretty cool that it kind of like tied in, or was like a kind of like a fork to where you're like, hey, I can do this, and then this process is this way for coffee, so I can easily transition over into it.
Exactly, yeah, and there's a lot of similarities that at first you may not realize, but yeah, there's between brewing and roasting, basically working with temperature, airflow, and a lot of things. So it was a pretty cool, easy transition, and I was putting together the business plan, and I'm like, you know what, it'd be an easier path if I choose coffee. I mean, to get into where I want to go. So ultimately, what I'd like to do is have a brick and mortar cafe, and then have some of my beers on tap as well. So it was just kind of like you said, a fork that happened, and I said, all right, I still have my brew system and everything, but dove into the coffee side, and got a small shop roaster, and I still have that roaster here today. And that's kind of what I started on, and just started practicing and training.
And where did you get that?
A shop actually in Phoenix. They're called Buckeye Coffee, and so I was just digging around, and I found these guys that were actually local. So talked to them, kind of developed a relationship with this gentleman, and went by there, visited him, and checked out their machines, and I was like, hey, this is it. Pulled the trigger, and just started working with it. And I just kind of fell down into the second rabbit hole. And then kind of along the same process, roasting coffee, learning the ins and outs, I found a coffee training course in Oakland. And this was just a couple of years ago. I went up to Oakland and actually worked with some professional roasters, and just kind of refined the game, and just kept growing. And then so I said, I'm going to do this, and decided to take this step and said, all right, I'm going to do this full time professionally. So
how long did you have to spend there in Oakland?
Oh, In Oakland, it was a 2 week intensive course, so it's just 2 weeks. But we still, so after we did that, we have kind of like a roaster community now. So I'm still in touch with the instructors there. And matter of fact, I just had a long discussion with him about the espresso roast and espresso blends. So it's an awesome community. Still keep in touch, and we still exchange ideas and still learning from each other. So yeah.
Okay, so like if you're wanting to infuse something or come up with like a different type of blend, then you guys have those a community to throw those types of ideas around.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. For the coffee, sourcing it, equipment. Actually, one of the students that was there in the course that I went to called me not too long ago because they were looking at one of the roasters, the brand that I have. So she had some questions, and we just kind of had a good conversation about it. But yeah, awesome resource. We still keep in touch and help each other out. So yeah.
Are there other native like coffee uh, brewers in that community as well?
Yeah, there are actually a few roasters out there. I've been learning about them and actually talked to a couple. But in the coffee course itself, I met a lady from Alaska, and they're native. So they started with the cafe, and her son, I guess, got a roaster, and I think it was the same roaster I have from Buckeye. But they're up in Alaska, and they're actually in the same class. So that was pretty cool to connect with
Oh
them.
wow.
Yeah, but yeah, there are a handful throughout the nation. I know I think at least one in California, um, and then up in
There's
Canada.
some, well, that's pretty cool that you guys have that community to go into. I mean, so what coffee is to me, it's like a whole total vibe for me. I mean, the first time I remember drinking coffee or knew anything about coffee, I was probably like around 6 or 7. Uh, Growing up on the res, my mom would make it when our relatives would come over, our out of town, they're coming in to either sing somewhere or be at a gathering, powwow, something. But I just remember her singing in the kitchen and making coffee. So that smell, like it woke me up, and it would bring me to the kitchen or the living room, wherever everybody was. And it was just like, wow, what is that? And back then, we didn't have any fancy, names for it or anything. Back then it was Folgers.
Yeah, yeah,
Folgers in your cup, instant coffee, or through the whatever coffee machine we had back then, milk, sugar, and that's exactly what it was. It wasn't crazy or anything, but the smell is like was amazing, and
yeah.
just that first taste. I don't even remember if I liked the taste when I first had my first cup or whatever. I have no clue. But
Hmm.
now it's my peace. So my first sip, it just helps me get through the day, and more so if I have my first cup of coffee, I mean the world is going to be okay. The world is in a better place as long as I have my coffee, and that's what that means to me.
Yep,
Like
absolutely.
honestly, it's like it's part of my morning routine. Like I literally get up every morning. I put my water to boil in my little kettle. I prep my French press, and pour my Spirit Mountain in, and I'm good to go. As soon as I hear that kettle like whistle, I'm like,
Yep,
yes, I get to have my first cup. Like
yep,
what is it
yeah.
for you? Like what is your first memory of actually tasting coffee, or aside from your late nights with college work and assignments, and the whole hustle and bustle of the city life and whatnot. I mean, we've been there. I've been there, but what's it like for you?
Yeah, kind of the same thing as today. It's an absolute ritual. It's something that's really intimate. First thing you get up, and that's what you do. The smell and the sounds. It's such an important ritual for me as well. But going back to, I guess the first exposure to it would have to, gosh, let me see. I think probably when we were camping. On the morning, and this is old school. They call it campfire coffee or cowboy coffee. Just you got that little pot of boiling water on the
On the
fire,
fire?
and yeah, and just the aroma, just like you said, it's just so unique and so powerful. I just remember cold mornings with the hot pot of coffee going, and of course I'd get a few sips. I was pretty young, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, you know, and it just
Where
evokes
did
these
you experience
memories.
that at?
Out here in the washes, camping out here in the desert. Me and my mom and dad, we'd go out there camping all the time, and they'd have that coffee pot going first thing in the morning. So yeah, it's a pretty powerful memory, you know. It's all good. But yeah,
Right?
same
It
thing
it just
all the
brings a
way
bunch of
through.
smiles and good memories, a good piece as soon as you get that first sip.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely, and still to this day, you know, it's hits you that same way. So yeah, it's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, coffee also means to me like good conversations with people. Like if family members come up or I get to meet up with friends at a diner, mom and pop restaurant because I refuse to go to anything corporate these days. And it's been like
Yeah,
that for a long time. But, uh, you know, just going to just a local spot here, enjoying my favorite cup of coffee with my favorite person, just having a good old conversation, no texting, no Skyping, no FaceTime or anything, just a good old face-to-face conversation. And I think that's really important these days that we have those types of memories because like you walk into any like corporate like a Starbucks or something and everybody's like, "Oh, I want a triple venti, half sweet, non-fat, no soy, soy on the side, foam on the side, at
yeah,
120 degrees, this is what I want." I'm like, "What
yeah.
the hell is going on over here? How do you even drink that?"
All right, all right. No, yeah, that's the beauty of coffee. Like I was saying, it's it can be something extremely intimate. You know, the first part of your day, the first thing you're engaged with, and it can bring people together. Just like you said, you go meet at a cafe or so that's the power of it to me. You know, it's so universal in a way that even those who don't necessarily drink coffee, the aroma, the smell. You know, we have mentioned you talked to Ari of Quechan Made, and she does the coffee soaps. And it was funny. I was at an event not too long ago. Had folks come by, I'd be talking to them about coffee, and they're like, I don't really drink coffee, and I'd say, check out this soap here, and they'd pick it up and smell it, and it just the reaction is awesome to see. Even though they're not coffee drinkers, they're just so engaged by it, and to me, that's the good power, the power of it. So yeah,
Yeah, there's so many other uses. I mean, I bought a bar of soap from Cowitz& Made, and it does exactly what I mean, it was exfoliating, it smells just like coffee. I mean, it was just great. And then she also has a different type of scrub that she uses your coffee to infuse, or with her scrub or whatnot. And it's
yep,
just different. So yeah, you're totally right. Even if somebody doesn't like coffee, that aroma, it's going to trigger something within you. Like it's
hmm
going to trigger like a good memory, a time that you spent with a loved one, those late nights that you were talking about earlier where, you're doing your homework and you're trying your best to stay awake.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Okay, so
with the background I had in the environmental field, the other aspect, trying to reuse and recycle as much as I can. So like used coffee grounds, I can't make awesome soaps like Ari does. So I'll send them her way. But what I do and what I'm into is gardening as well. So I'm able to use the coffee as compost and mulch and
oh,
yeah. So it's something that it's has many uses beyond just making a cup of
for
good brew.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I digress, and I'm sorry I got us off track or whatnot. So you're getting out of this school, you bought this roaster, you have this community of people that you're talking to help your business out, or you're like, well, I don't even know if it's a business at that point, but I think that's where you're leading to.
It was so when I actually got the business going, so I'd had the roaster for about a year, practiced on it, learned it, got really familiar with it, and then I finally decided it was time to take that step. And it was very end of 2015 when I founded the company, um, and kind of got it going. I was actually roasting out of a location in Tempe, off a university near the 53, I think it is. So I had a buddy that had a space in the industrial area. Got it set up, was roasting. you know, friends that I worked with, coffee lovers, they'd buy bags, and really was getting some good feedback for it. So it was, gosh, I think it was 2016 where I just kind of decided to make the jump, take that step. Um,
And then, so do you remember the exact day that you said, hell with this job and I'm going to work for myself?
yeah, it took a little while to build up to it, but yeah, it was, it's, I'm sure the others you've talked to that have, started the business, it's a pretty scary thing, but I do remember it was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and kind of put in my notice. And some people are supportive and some are like, wow, what are you doing, you're crazy. So but yeah, I do remember it. And
What
yeah,
was that
ever
day
since
like
then,
for you?
it was a mix of kind of freeing feeling that, hey, you're doing this, and then of course still that kind of hesitation, like, oh shit, what are you doing, man?
Oh
You're
shit, what am I
crazy.
doing
Yeah,
after
yeah,
after you put your 2 week notice on the
yeah, yeah.
okay,
But
okay, I can't turn back now.
yeah, you're all in it, but in hindsight, I wouldn't change anything. And yeah, so from there, just did it. If I'm doing this, I'm all in. I want this to be successful, and if it is successful, I want to be home when it becomes successful. So really, it was a big decision. Decided to pick up the business and move back home to the reservation here. So that was a huge, huge turn for me. And just over 2 years now, I've been here on the res, and yeah, took it
And
from
why do you
there.
think you did that? Is it because like living in the city life was there was too much going on for you here, or because you had more support back home?
Really, a big part of it was wanting to do, wanting to have an impact on my community. Because I started building some momentum, and I was like, I'm going to have to expand and grow the company. I'm going to need to hire people, bring them in. And I was like, if I'm doing it, I want to do this back home. I want to be able to provide jobs for my community. And I have a lot of ideas and dreams. But I wanted to make it happen here because I felt that I can have an impact on my community directly by doing that. So really, it was about not only coming home and being among friends and family, but what I could do here. Um,
For the
yeah,
people. Yeah.
for the people. Yeah, yeah. This is where I grew up, and seeing the things I've seen outside of here and experiencing the experiences I've had. I'm like, I'd like to be able to come back and share some of that. So that's really the main reason. Yeah.
Okay, so you picked up and moved. It's around 2016. You're taking your coffee business back to the res. You get to the res, and either people are being supportive or not supportive, but then they're like, "What the hell is coffee? Like, why are you bringing it here?"
Yeah.
Did you get any of
Yeah.
those reactions?
Yeah. Just sometimes kind of blank stares, like, oh yeah, nice. Yeah. And you could tell they're not really buying it, or getting the
Quechan
gist of
don't
it.
grow coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a lot of positive people out there that are just like, hell yeah, you're yeah, you are kicking ass, you're doing your thing, there's nothing like that. Everyone's just
No,
like, well, why the fuck are
that's
you doing that shit? And it's just like, oh my God.
absolutely, man. That's really hard, and that was the thing I was
It's
dreading
so
coming back,
hard.
man. I tell people, I said, our own people can be our worst enemy sometimes, man. We're the hardest on each other, and that was something I was definitely kind of not looking forward to coming back here. So I can appreciate what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's really
Um,
just no support in some ways, and everyone's just, negative. Like, why are you doing that? Why did you name your business this? Like, why does your logo
yeah,
look like that? Like,
exactly.
criticize me all you want, that's totally fine, but it's only going to make me better, and I appreciate the constructive criticism.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's there's no shortage of it for sure. I had ran into someone, an actual relative. I was like, man, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you in so long. And they just gave me this weirdest reaction, man. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, are you jealousy or what the fuck? It just blew my
Yeah.
mind. I'm like, man, I can't believe it sometimes. But
And it's kind
Yeah.
of like, I don't even want you to shake my hand. I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to walk on past because I don't want that energy. I don't want that
Exactly.
part of it. I don't want the exchange. We're good. See you later. Have the day you deserve
Exactly.
type of thing.
Exactly. And another thing, and I'm just venting now here, but just the lack of support from the tribe itself, you know what I mean, it was really frustrating. It's just like, really, man, you'd think your own tribe would want to
Have
help
a
you out,
business model, a business plan for you. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we have this sort of funding or we have these resources
Yeah.
here for you. So here, come over here. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
Let's sit down. Let's make this plan and let's get you into a program like this.
And I anticipated, some obstacles, and of course, a lot across a lot of the reservations, there's not a lot of infrastructure, economic infrastructure, and that was kind of one of the things I faced. Was like, I was okay. I have my roaster. I'm ready to set this up, but we don't really have many spaces to do that. As opposed to where I was in Phoenix. Yeah, there's industrial space everywhere, and you can get in.
Yeah,
So
it's
that was a
busier.
big obstacle. Yeah, yeah. So it took a while. I was back here, and I had the roaster stored in storage. And when I'd get orders, I'd literally have to bring it out of storage, set it all up, do my roast, and then break it down and put it away again. So it was really unsustainable and an inefficient way to do it. So I had to literally build my own space here. There was a structure I was looking at. I don't know how familiar you are with Sleepy Hollow, right by the border. That trailer park that used to be there. Tribe shut it down, and there's a rec center there that's just standing. I mean, literally nothing's happened. I was like, man, that'd be a perfect location built for my roastery, and talked to the tribe, and they just sat. They didn't do anything. I mean, it's just sitting there. It's not being used, and they didn't want to lift a finger to help me get in there. So I was like, man, it's just. So it was about a year that I was trying to find a place, and luckily, came through with that business loan. I was like, shit, I'm just gonna build my own. It's literally like a larger tough shed. You know what I mean? One of those structures you see at Home Depot.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So it's like a 30 foot by 12 foot structure. I had them place it out here, got it insulated, got AC, set up the
Where?
roaster. So I'm right off of, if you're going through Winter Haven towards the Q, is it Winter Haven Drive, that main road going through Winter Haven?
Yeah.
If you're heading west towards the Q, there's a road called Quick Road. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I think
It's
we
the
live
only.
down that road, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah. Your mom is on Winter Haven Drive, so I'm literally probably a mile or two past her house. On the right is where I have it set up. It's actually where my dad and his wife are. It's on their property, so I'm not on. I don't have to deal with the tribe at all. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
If
wow.
you
So you
ever
just
come down, come by and check out the roaster. Come
No, I
over and.
definitely will. I mean, that's an experience in itself. I mean, just to see the process
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
from start to finish. I'm pretty sure it's hot
yeah.
as shit in there.
Yep. Especially this, I have a AC running, and when I'm roasting, if it's the afternoon, it still gets warm, but it's, I have to say it's paradise compared to what I was doing before. Like when I said I had to break out the roaster and roast outdoors, I was roasting literally and figuratively when I was
Well,
doing it that way, So now I'm in paradise, even if it gets a little bit warm. I'm like, "Ah, I got the AC."
yeah, you're like, I'm in heaven
Yeah,
right now. Don't even
yeah,
worry about it.
yeah,
Well, that's pretty cool that you actually had to build your own structure or build your own
yeah,
structure from start to
yeah.
finish. So like you actually with your own two hands built it?
Parts, so the actual flooring, I laid all that out inside, but I hired contractor to do the insulation and all that stuff, like the technical side of it. So yeah, with the business loan, I was able to do that. Yeah,
Okay. Have you ever built anything before?
not to this degree. Yeah, so like I had to do the flooring, and then we got the roaster in. I had to help the contractor install the exhaust and everything. So yeah, my hands are all over here. So it's been an experience.
Well, definitely. It sounds like an experience. And don't you, you're probably more appreciative with that part because, you've done it from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, quite a few obstacles. It was it was challenging at first, but I was put in touch with some good people, and actually the NEAR program. I don't know if I already mentioned that. Native Entrepreneur in Residence. I got connected with these folks.
And how did you find them?
It was a good friend of mine that I actually used to work with at Salt River. He had moved on, and he was running. It's basically it's called Native Capital Access. So they provide financing for Native entrepreneurs and businesses. So I was talking to him, and he mentioned the NEAR program, and that's how I heard about him out in New Mexico. Applied for it and got into it. At the same time that happened, I was actually applying with Native Capital Access for a business loan, and that happened to come through. So I was blessed, the way things worked out. I was getting really good mentoring, training through the NEAR program, and then the business loan came through. So I was able to actually build out the roastery to my vision, exactly what I had in mind. I was actually able to build it out here. So
what is the NEAR program, and what did it entail? Like, what did you have to do?
Yeah, so it's you have to apply for it. Basically, fill out an application, tell them who you are, what your business is. They go through all the applicants, make their selections, and it's really awesome. They pair you with a business mentor. So they have a staff of folks that are either currently in business or have been in business, and they pair you up with the mentor. And that was actually a 6-month program as well.
Okay, so they pair you up with someone like that within your same interest, or someone in the same field. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, either, if not in the exact same field, somebody that can help you with where you want to go. So marketing development or financial. If it's not exactly what you're doing, it's something that you can benefit from their experience. So they do that. You have to go up to New Mexico, and they actually had grant funding to provide stipends for the participants as well. So it's a really awesome program. We're still really closely connected. They're having an event to bring current participants, past graduates together, and it's an awesome community. I mean, I can't talk about them enough, man. They're great. So
it sounds like an awesome experience. So did you have to go and stay in New Mexico for that 6-month period, or how did that work?
No, it's you meet with your mentor weekly, but you can do like Skype or video conferencing. So doing all your work, business plan development, financials, and all of that. You meet with your mentor, you video weekly, and then you got to go up there at least 3 times out of that 6-month period for actual in-person meetings and trainings. So yeah, it's really flexible, and it's really doable. I mean,
Yeah,
with all the
sounds like
commitments.
it's very in depth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got into the NEAR program, and so you were accepted there, and then you said your business loan came through to where you were able to actually get the funding to open up a space.
Yeah. So the loan actually allowed me to scale up. So I was able to get a larger roaster, the one I have now. So I have my shop roaster, the larger roaster, and then build out a small production facility space here. So,
but yeah, that's pretty cool. I thought it was in Yuma for some reason.
No, actually, when I was trying to look around and there wasn't really spaces here, I started looking at Yuma. They have industrial areas and stuff like that, but I really thought about it, and going back to the purpose for me coming back was, wanting to be able to provide opportunities for our community members. And, even as simple as it sounds, if I was located in Yuma, that'd still be difficult for some to get back and forth, and I'm like, if I can actually have it here on the reservation.
And are they inquiring with you, or did you like handpick them? Was it word of mouth? Like, how do you bring in your employees to your business?
Yeah, kind of word of mouth, folks I've known, or people that'll talk to me and say, hey, I have so-and-so that's interested. So it's just
the only thing is you need to make sure that you find workers that are actually going to have that much appreciation for your
That's
business, because there's a lot of times if you find that you're doing something and you know give somebody else like a small
Mhm.
menial task or whatnot, and you tell them exactly step by step how to do it, and then they go and then they find their own way to do it, and you're just like,
Yeah,
wow.
no, exactly. Like, especially from my perspective, like I'm up to this point, I've been doing everything, so roasting, packaging. So I have my way, and I'm really particular about it, and just like you said, it's
Uh-huh.
hard to find good people, and there are some that
Yeah,
are
somebody who's gonna
totally on.
master your craft just like you would.
Exactly. Yep. So I'm kind of on the hunt for that. One of them is more attention to detail, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to be able to
Yeah,
train
you
you
can trust
further.
that person. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So that's been a whole interesting experience too. But it's all good, man. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah. So right now I actually just received a shipment today. So I got on hand right now. I have a Colombian. I have two Colombians. I have a coffee from Honduras, Oaxaca, Mexico, and an Ethiopian. So I get my coffee from a supplier that's based out of Portland, Oregon, and they basically source the coffee from all over, and primarily they're working with Central and South America, but they do have some Ethiopian offerings. And I actually heard about this particular supplier when I was going to the roasting training in Oakland, and the reason I'm using them is they're really, really above the board. They only do fair trade organic coffee, so they make sure that the growers themselves are treated. They get paid higher than the market is paying in general. So that's what fair trade is. It's basically a third party certification that makes sure that the farmers are being paid fairly. Their operations are in a sustainable manner. So this supplier that I get the coffee from is really great. So I work with them. They have a portfolio of their coffees that comes out of Oakland, or no, I'm sorry, San Leandro, LA area somewhere. They have a warehouse there. So
That's cool. I think that's a really cool concept that they have out there. And fair trade, I mean, I've never even really thought about that in a coffee aspect, like from where you're getting like your goods from.
hmm
And because
yeah,
it's not like Starbucks, that crap there. I mean, they don't
yeah,
pay, they don't pay at all. I mean, it's always in the news,
yeah,
their workers are underpaid, and they're just, you know, they never get any rest. They're treated pretty poorly. So,
yeah.
and
No, that's
the backstories for these people that you're getting the coffee from, like, what are some of those?
yeah. Actually, the one that's has the coolest, I guess, story to it is I actually got one of the Colombians comes from a collective of four tribes that are in Colombia. I think it's the northwestern part of the country. So it's a collective of four tribes that actually grow the coffee themselves. So that's my primary goal, is trying to source these types of growers. So I'm really
From
lucky I was able to
indigenous
get
areas?
indigenous, yeah, literally from indigenous, and that's where it goes, indigenous from seed to cup. I'm actively looking for these types of coffee. I had another Colombian that I just ran out of, and it was from an all women collective. It was I think it was called like Mujeres Cafeteras or something like that. But so these guys that I work with, the suppliers, Sustainable Harvest, they put that as a priority to work with minority growers and try to give them a chance to highlight their products. So yeah, that for me, and I say it in one of our promotional flyers. Like, for me, our community is not only the people here, the pipa, but the growers that we buy from. I care about them too. I want to make sure that they're treated right as much as I can. Ideally, I'd like to get to the point where I can actually go down there directly and start contracting directly with some of these groups. That's kind of one of my plans down the road, is to do something like
Well,
that.
yeah, that
So
would be a great experience to actually immerse yourself in their culture, to see like
exact,
how it is, they actually grow. There's like different altitudes. Some grow in a higher altitude and some grow in a lower altitude. Can you explain a little bit about that, how that is?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the aspects that I geek out on, I guess you could say. It's just
Let's nerd out. Let's do it.
yeah, right. Just the sheer variety of flavors and aromas that are associated with coffees from around the world. It's a lot like, in my analogy, it's a lot like wine when you hear about terroir. So, if a grape is grown in this part of the
It's
picks
a
up,
cherry.
it's actually a fruit. It's a seed, actually. So it's not a bean, it's a seed. So it's
It looks like a cherry to me.
yeah. So there's fruit, basically a cherry. It's called a coffee cherry. It's the fruit around the seed. So coffee is, not only does it bring flavor and aroma from the actual variety of that plant, but it picks up, from how it was grown, the climate, the soil types, all of those have an impact on the flavor. So that's the cool part about the variety. And then you have, going back to the altitudes, like there's two families of coffee. One is Arabica and the other is Robusta. The Arabica coffees they're generally thought of kind of the higher end. They have more delicate aromas, and flavors are more refined, I guess you could say. Whereas the Robusta coffee, higher caffeine, a little more hardy plant, but they grow in the lower elevation. So Arabicas are the high elevation grown coffees. They grow slower and they have a lot more appealing flavor characteristics to them. The Robusta varieties, they're hardier plants. They grow in lower altitudes, but they're not as delicate in their flavors. So, yeah, I mean, and you can have the same variety of a coffee plant grown in one country and the other, and they're still going to taste different, and that goes back to the terroir, I guess you could say. But
When I first seen coffee, and I had no idea where it came from, I didn't even know what it came from a plant. And then I found out it was like an actual, like you said, like a little fruit, looks like a little cherry with a pit inside or a seed inside. And I'm like, how the hell do they get coffee out of that?
yeah, what I like to do is when I am talking with people, I like to bring raw coffee and roasted coffee and like to show them both, because a lot of times, just like you said, people haven't been exposed to what this is before it's been roasted, and then when they see
Yeah.
it and smell it, there's a whole different smell, and it's cool to show that to people. Yeah.
I was
Real
just
quick,
wondering.
so coffee was typically not grown on the continental United States. In the U.S., it was Hawaii that was able to grow it, and it's really climate specific. But I just found out that there's a group growing coffee in California somewhere. I guess they found an area that really suitable for coffee. So that, to me, that's really interesting. I'm curious to try that out at some point
Yeah,
because
because I've always heard that it was like grown, well, you always hear like it's like in Ethiopia or
exotic places. Yeah.
Indonesia, yeah, somewhere over there, and I figured that's why we couldn't grow it here because of whatever the climate was or altitude or but I do enjoy it in my cup every single day. But that's pretty cool that you're offering, this, you're making an impact on the community, you're employing members of the community, and you're only, your company is still young, so you're growing. So where do you see yourself in a few years? Like what's your plan?
Yeah, so I envision outgrowing the space I'm in right now. I have a couple of ideas of where I'd like to be still here on the res, but definitely increasing capacity. Uh, Talking to some of the casinos up the river in Southern California, hopefully growing in the wholesale production side. But I would like to within 5 years or so actually open like I said, a small cafe, a brick and mortar shop. I'd like to be able to, just like you said, be able to provide the atmosphere for people to come in and experience those things that we talked about. Just coming together, place you can sit down, have a cup of good coffee, and just relax. A
Yeah,
space.
share a good conversation, good space,
Exactly.
good vibe.
Yeah, right across the street from the new IHS building is a ideal location in my mind. However, there's no infrastructure there yet, so that's a little obstacle that
But
needs to
well,
be
we're going to
overcome.
manifest that you are going to have a building there within 5 years.
Exactly.
I know that we spoke one time that you said that one of the companies out here in Phoenix had your coffee infused in their beer. Tell me about that.
Yeah. A good buddy of mine, Noel, the head brewer and part owner of 12 West Brewing Company. They're Gilbert, Arizona, and they have their tap room out there. And yeah, they use the coffee in one of their stouts. It's called Midnight Run, I believe is the name of it. So they carry it on tap there, and I believe they have that. It's scattered throughout the valley.
Well,
Um,
that's pretty awesome that
yeah.
you have your beer. I mean, I have to try that. I live here. I've yet to go to that brewing company, but I will make my way out to Gilbert. It's like an hour away, but one day I will because I can't wait to taste it. Yeah, that's so awesome. I love craft beer.
Yeah, and that's perfect for me. I was like, yeah, craft beer, coffee's infused in it. Perfect marriage right there.
Yeah, that's like a win. I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
I'm like, why haven't I tasted this before?
So we do have a website. We ship all over. We've shipped shoot pretty much everywhere thus far, East Coast, Northwest, and then a little closer to home here in Yuma. There's a cafe called Cafecito. They're downtown Old Yuma, and they use my coffee for their cold brews and their espressos and stuff. So locally there, and then Red Moon Ale House just opened up, and they carry it on nitro on tap there as well. So there's, if you're a little farther away, there's a coffee shop in North Dakota, in Newtown, North Dakota. They carry it. They specifically use my espresso blend for all of their stuff. So I'm shipping them coffee weekly. They serve it there. There's a shop in Northern California that carries the bags. But yeah, you can. It's out there. You can find it. Like I said, we have a website, so if you want to give it a shot, check it out.
Yeah, and my favorite place to see all your pictures that you post is on your Instagram. So that's growing pretty heavily,
Yep,
I've noticed.
yep,
So you're
right
doing some
on. Yeah.
big things. I mean, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing in the community. I mean, I think that we do need more people like you who are, being positive, who are believing in themselves, and just showing everybody on the res and many other reses that you can do it. Like it takes a
Yeah.
little bit of heart, some dedication, some knowledge, and mainly probably what 100% patience or more.
Yep. Some passion, and I think it's so important. Even if somebody is not into coffee per se on the reservation, but they see somebody doing something just like you said, it just sparks. I know I got that, and I saw other people in business for themselves. It just kind of gives you that, yeah, I can do this. So, not only even if they're not involved in coffee, and hopefully they see what's happening, it inspires them to do something. That's what it's about.
And who are your biggest influences right now?
At this point, shoot, I'd have to say a couple of folks come to mind. My mentor in the New York program, her name's Vicky. She's amazing. Ari, I'd have to say I'm really impressed by Ari and how she carries herself and her company. A lady named Blue Adams. She's amazing. I don't know if you've heard of her, but
She just opened up a shop not too long ago, right? She just opened it was like a cafe or
yeah,
something like that, a restaurant.
absolutely, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
she's
that's
so
part.
awesome.
Yeah, she has a couple of restaurants in Utah. I think she did something. Yeah, the one you're talking about on Navajo Nation. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are the folks come to mind. And no, I just really appreciate the invite, Lena. And it's just opportunities like this to be able to tell stories and hopefully inspire others that makes the journey worth it. And look forward to doing some good things here in the future for the community and nearby and far. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Like you're doing it and everybody else can see that you're putting in the work and their dream is not too far away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just check out Spirit Mountain Roasting Co. on Instagram, Facebook. Our website is spiritmountainroasting.com. Come pay us a visit. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely. And on his website he has uh if you order more than $39, you'll get free shipping. So please take advantage of that. So this podcast is brought to you by Quechan Media Inc. Together we are planting a seed that will start a movement amongst Quechan people and every indigenous individual. You can find us on Facebook at Quechan Media Inc. or follow me on the gram at Rezzilient or MissYa49 for my personal page. Until next time, thank you for joining me.
There were people here. And these people that lived here, basically, there were many cultures and many languages. But they were the people of this land base. And almost universally within this concept, they always referred to themselves in their own languages or culture as the people. Human beings. But that was always a part of the self-identification, the identification of self, the people. And the Europeans came and they refused to recognize us as the people. They called us Indians.